Please stand. Please join us as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. You may be seated.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's Veterans Day program. I would like to welcome students, community members, and veterans. On behalf of the students, veterans, I thank you for your service. Thank you all for coming and I hope you enjoy today's program. United States Army.
Please stand as the parental service is announced.
Please rise, remove your hats, and join us in the singing of our national anthem.
You may be seated. Thank you, bands, our high school band and grades 8 through 12 choir. As they are being seated, and thank you also Regan Davis for doing the narration through that. She's also going to read a poem for you in a few minutes. While they are seating themselves, Joe Scrow is going to show a video.
To understand a military veteran, you must know we left home as a teenager or in our early 20s for an unknown adventure. We loved our country enough to defend it and protect it with our lives. We said goodbye to family and friends. We learned the basics and then we scattered in the wind to the far corners of the earth. We became brothers and sisters, regardless of color, race, or creed. We didn't earn a great wage. We experienced the happiness of mail call and the sadness of missing important events back home. We didn't know when or even if we were ever going to see home again. We grew up fast, and yet somehow we never grew up at all. We fought for our freedom as well as the freedom of others. Some saw combat, some didn't. Some of us saw the world, and some of us didn't. Some of us dealt with physical warfare. Most of us dealt with psychological warfare. We participated in time-honored ceremonies and rituals with each other, strengthening our bonds and camaraderie. We counted on each other to get our jobs done, and sometimes to survive it at all. We have dealt with victory and tragedy. We have celebrated and mourned. We lost a few along the way. When our adventure was over, some of us went back home, and some of us started somewhere new, and some of us never came home at all. We share an unspoken bond with each other that most people don't experience and few will understand. We speak highly of our own branch of service and poke fun at other branches. We know, however, that if needed, we will be there for our brothers and sisters and stand together as one in a heartbeat. Being a veteran is something that had to be earned. It can never be taken away. To all our veterans here today, I commend you and thank you for all that you have done and sacrificed for your country. Try to remember the good times and make peace with the bad. But most importantly, stand tall and proud, for you have earned the right to be called a veteran.
The noble and the brave, a Veterans Day tribute. When America had an urgent need, these brave ones raised a hand. No hesitation held them back. They were proud to take a stand. They left their friends and family. They gave up a normal life. To serve their country and their God, they plowed into the strife. They fought for freedom and for peace on strange and foreign shores. Some lost new friends, some lost their lives in long and brutal wars. Other veterans answered a call to support the ones who fought. Their country had requirements for the essential skills they brought. We salute every one of them, the noble and the brave, the ones still with us here today, and those who rest in a grave. So here's to our country's heroes that are cut above the rest. Let's give the honor that is due to our country's very best.
Thank you, Regan. That was wonderful. Now I have the very special pleasure of bringing to the podium a pretty awesome guy. Sorry, I get emotional at this time. I'm going to read Craig's service description here, and then I will thank you again for coming to the stage. Craig is a retired Staff Sergeant in the Army National Guard. After joining in 1986, he served 22 years in South Dakota and Minnesota Army National Guard. He retired in 2008. In his military career, he trained in Korea and served with NATO forces in Norway. He served a 9-month deployment to England in 2003-2004 and a 22-month deployment to Iraq in 2005 to 2007. Staff Sergeant Chapman lives in White, South Dakota, where he farms and is employed by the Brookings County Highway Department. Thank you, Craig, for agreeing to be our speaker today, and we definitely appreciate your service. Craig.
I want to welcome all the Deubrook Nation students, faculty, veterans, and guests. And I especially want to thank Dr. Coop for giving me the opportunity to tell my story. That video started it. I will tear up a little bit. My recollections began as a veteran at an early age. Before I entered school, younger than the preschoolers, I came up with a question: what is war? I came up with this question from watching the evening news. It seemed like it was on every night. There always was something being said about what was going on in Vietnam. This scared me as a youth, and I never wanted to go to war. Like you, I recognize Veterans Day every year here at Deubrook. my school would have a small event to know what the Veterans Day was. Excuse me, I forgot the things. The Vietnam War ended in 1975 with the fall of Saigon. A majority of the soldiers prior to this end of Vietnam were drafted into service. If I remember right, when you turned 18, you registered for the draft. Throughout the year, drawings would be held to call up males for service. You had a number that would be put into a raffle. The last draft call ended December 7th, 1972. The draft ended in 73. The registration was suspended on the 27th of January, 1976. In 1980, President Jimmy Carter signed and wanted to send a signal to Russia and resume the registration. And anyone 18 years of age or older were to register. And as far as I know, this registration continues today. Nearing graduation, my parents suggested that I would join the Army. My father volunteered and served in the Army in the 50s between the Korea and Vietnam War. From a fear as an adolescent, there was no way I was going to make a commitment in the military. This would be a 4 to 6 year commitment contract obligation for the service. But after 4 years of college and VOTEC, I had to pay student loans back. The recession in the 80s made it difficult to make ends meet. So on October 20th, 1986, I joined the National Guard for a bonus, student loan repayment, and the option for a GI Bill if I ever wanted to go back to school. It was going to be an in and out after my student loan was paid for. But when my student loan was paid for, my enlistment came up. A retention non-commissioned officer gave me a talk about staying in with the National Guard. The reward for putting in 20 years was a small pension at the age of 60, some veteran benefits, oops, I almost tipped the mic over. And the thing that really made me consider staying in was health insurance for life after the age of 60. This reward was what made me consider staying in, and I also thought of it as a great hobby. I joined 2nd 147th Field Artillery up in northeast South Dakota. I entered with the military occupation of a cannon fire direction specialist. This is referred to as an MOS of 13 Echo. I aided in computing data and coordinating calls for fire missions. Later on in my career, I transferred to Alpha Battery, 1st and 125th Field Artillery. This led me to be on the firing gun line. I became a cannon crew member in around 2001. I became a chief of my own gun section and was promoted to staff sergeant. The first 10 years I had the opportunity to go to Korea in an annual training exercise called Team Spirit. After I transferred to the 34th Infantry Division in Minnesota, I was able to go to Norway for another annual training, which was north of the Arctic Circle. As a National Guardsman, I never imagined being called to active duty. I thought at one time it would have been nice to have had 3 years active duty. I remember talking to my wife Bev about the chances of being activated and deployed was becoming a big possibility. It was that if I was to get out, that was the time. Then the world changed on September 11, 2001. The collapse of the World Trade Center in New York and the plane crashing into the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. led to war in Iraq and Afghanistan. My unit was called up in the summer of 2003 to support security in England, or Europe. I spent 6 months in England, and prior to this, Bev and I had begun the process of adoption. This was suspended until I got back the next spring. 2005 quickly became a whirlwind. Bev and I were selected to adopt a child, and just after this, I was informed of being deployed to Iraq. After adopting our daughter on the 23rd of August, I was flying to Mississippi October 12th to begin the 18-month deployment, ending up sending us into a war zone. My worst fears of youth became a reality. Before our deployment was over, it was extended to 22 months. We broke our old World War II record of being the longest deployed unit in the nation's history. One can never imagine the experiences one will endure in a combat zone. I personally don't know why, but the fear of death or injury never entered my mind once. But there is events that will always be a reminder of my service. The top of this list was watching a mortar run explode very close to me. With God's grace, no one was injured. On another, a helicopter flight over Baghdad, I and another soldier observed gunfire shot at us. On the convoy back home from that trip, I also witnessed an improvised explosive device on the side of the road. Of all the experiences, the ones that make me recognize myself as a veteran is a memory of those we lost. I had 2 soldiers killed in action that were friends. Kyle Miller, a young 19-year-old, and David Berry, about my age. Both I got to know from being on deployment. There are countless of soldiers we've lost at home. I cannot count all that we lost in car accidents. But those that are ingrained into my memory are those who died from the unbelievable events. Gerald Cassidy, a member of the Indiana National Guard, sustained traumatic brain injury. While being treated here in the States, his prescription led to an overdose that claimed his life. But the 2 deaths that will always haunt me are those that lost to suicide. David Woolley, a young soldier under me, was the first to commit suicide that I knew. And then a good friend, Jeff Larson, who I got to know on deployment, was the second. Jeff and I had come home for leave at the same time. We both lived near Brookings. Just about every day in Iraq I visited with him. To this day, I don't know why or what that led these men to death way too soon. Many times a year, I am a veteran thankful for my service. It is weird to think because it was just a job to me. But I am proud to recognize all those who respect us that serve. I don't want to wish these things to happen to anyone. But in all, I would do it all over again for my country and all those I swore to protect. Thank you.
Thank you again, Craig, for this very moving presentation and for your service. Now, Joe Stroh is going to show us another video.
Today, as we all know, is a very special day for all Americans. But to those of us who are veterans ourselves, that has a very special and added meaning. Memories come back of families and old brotherhoods, of distant days and places from the past. Some of those friends are still with us, sharing in the challenges of peace today, just as they did their duty in wartime. Others we shall never see again. but we carry on the legacy of their spirits and commitment to a cause that was much greater than themselves. We are all here today, and we are all free today because for over 200 years, whenever freedom has been threatened or our values have been trodden upon, valiant men and women have answered the call of their country in that time of need. From all branches of the services, they risked and even gave their lives defending this great nation. We owe more than we can ever repay to the veterans of all wars in which they have been involved. And all those simple words will always fail to express our deepest gratitude. We could do more so by living the values that they upheld every single day. So today, let us be united for peace. Let us also be united against defeat. Let us stand in agreement in honoring the character, courage, and commitment of our nation's veterans. Steadfast, unwavering, invaluable. Semper Fi, and God bless America.
As the band is getting set, we are going to ask that the entire audience joins us in singing God Bless America. The accompany us to the choir is going to be Mr. Nathan Lamb, one of our social studies instructors. I'm in choir, not band. Thank you for joining us at our 2022 Veterans Day program. Thank you to all who came and enjoyed this program with us. Thank you again, Mr. Chapman, for your moving message. Thank you for your service. Thank you for service, all of you veterans who are in our audience. Students, you may return to your classrooms. Thank you, elementary students, for coming and joining us. Thank you for teachers for helping us. And veterans and guests, I would like for you to join us in the CA for cookies and coffee. Thank you.